Okay, I'm going to start trying to make videos of this graph ganning on a loom. My first videos, please forgive me for all the mistakes I'm about to make. Alright, this is my my graph, and on my loom I've marked off every 10 pegs to go with my my graph, and you can't see it, but I've got little notations on my stitch what I'm going to purl knit. I'm doing 5 rows of seed for my border, and I might end up doing the whole thing with seed. I don't know yet. I'll know when I start really getting into it. So I've got 3 rows. I'm fixing to start my color additions. Then I did a crochet cast on, and here's my 3 rows, and I'll get started and then show you when I get to a color change. So on my graph here I am going to start with purl, and it's purl knit, and that is the beginning of the seed stitch. Each row on my graph is a pass back and forth on my loom. So I go one way and then back the other, and that is one complete row. Alright. So I'm sure there are lots of videos out there on how to do the purls and the knits. I'm doing a U-knit for my knit. This here is the tail off of my beginning loop, and I knitted it in the first 2 pegs, and then now I'm just kind of folding it as I go to get it into the work. And I have notations here to help me keep track of where I'm at. So I started with purl. I just knitted, brought this down, and then I'm just going to let this video run. I might go back and edit it so y'all don't get bored waiting for me to get down to a color change here. And hopefully y'all can see. I'll go back and see how I did. I got y'all attached to a frame that I put over my laundry basket here, and I've got my loom set on, so please forgive the movement. Alright, so I lost track. So I started with purl, so this is the purl. I marked on the inside of my number 10 peg, so this is number 10 and 11. We're purling. Around and around we go. Hoping this turns out okay. I've never used this yarn before, but it's for a baby blanket, and I wanted it all nice and fuzzy and cozy, and it's actually going to end up being a toddler blanket. It's a little big, but that's okay. If it holds up, he can enjoy it. Right now I have my skein yarn down in my laundry basket here, but I do have some of the big clothespins from the dollar store that I use for my bobbins, and I hang them on the outside of the blanket, the basket. I'm so nervous. Kind of push it down, so when I come back I'm not having to push it down. It doesn't really matter, but it's kind of the habit I'm trying to get into. And since I'm doing the U-knit for my knit. Kind of like to go back and just give myself a little tug there, make sure that I've got some slack. I get it too tight. Haven't run into a problem with this yarn, but I know there are some yarns that don't really have any stretchiness, so you can end up getting it really tight and can't get it off your pegs and end up breaking pegs. Which really sucks. Reason I'm doing the seed stitch, I found it doesn't curl, and I've also found it tends to be pretty much the same on both sides. So you get a double-sided project to a degree. Your joins will look different. So one side's going to look better than the other, and it's usually the right side, which that's the bottom side of what you see here. So this is the wrong side, and then the right side's on the bottom. So any tails that I do, I leave them on this side. Okay. We'll double check. 71, 72, 73, number 74 we'll start, and we'll have 3 stitches of black. 71, 72, 73. Alright, let me check my camera here, make sure you guys are still with me. Yep, looks like it. Alright. Alright, here's my black. Now I've done this several ways. You can loop the peg on the yarn on there and knit over and leave your tail and weave it in. I have also taken and I have to take my whole bobbin out and make a knot and pretend that came through, and then take this and make the same, pretend that's still there. So you're gonna make a knot like this, and you'll make the same knot with this. You have to use your bobbin to bring it loose, and then you tighten them both down and pull and get your knot up here. And I haven't noticed it in any of my work. And then what I've been doing myself lately, I've actually just been looping it on my thread. I'm going to see if this works with this yarn. It may be too bulky. Alright, so we're on a pearl, on a pearl. So I lift it up, grab both strands of yarn, kind of shift everything around there, and we have our first color addition. And I'll take this tail and work it in. I'll just go ahead and work all 3 pegs with it. Until I get used to this yarn. I'm going to be a little clumsy with it. As you get going in the project, you'll get more quicker and efficient, not having to use your fingers so much. Just keep it right on the hook. Alright, so I'm going to leave my tail here until I make my pass back, and then I'll do something with it. Alright, so I am not prepared. I do not have another bobbin with this color, so hang on, I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. Not prepared. Okay. So, same thing. I'm going to take and just loop my yarn around the color I'm changing from. Give yourself a little tail there so you can weave it in. You can work it in and then weave it in later. That way it should hold. Alright, we're on a knit stitch. So put it around your peg and knit over. Kind of move it around a little bit. Get yourself a little slack there. And we have done another color change. Alright, I'm going to leave that there till I come back. And I write all my looms with a wet erase marker. That way it, you know, doesn't come off, but when I'm ready to redo it, I just get a damp paper towel and wipe it all away. These purple straps here are little bungee cords that I've got this loom bungee corded to this wire basket, laundry basket that I picked up at Walmart. And it's worked out pretty good. It's on wheels, so I can turn it around, which is really handy. The only thing is it likes to eat my yarn if I don't, I'm not paying attention and yarn hits the floor. It will roll up in that wheel quicker than you say don't do it. I am not super fast at these yet. I've only been loom knitting about a year now, and did some scarves and a hat, and then was perusing Facebook one day and come across graphghans. Fell in love. So I started watching all kinds of loom knitting videos and crochet videos and just gave it a whirl because I really wanted to create those beautiful blankets and stuff. And this seems to be my niche. Alright, about to the end of our row here. On my last peg, I just do a half, I think it's called a half knit, and it puts a nice edge. I don't have enough here to show you, but if I wanted to put a border on, it makes it easier. I don't know how easy it's going to be with this yarn though, but regular acrylic yarn, it has a nice edge on it. Alright. I'll get back to here. When I get here, I'll zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better. Alright, so purl, 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 purl. And this seed stitch, like this one, I started with purl, and then when I go back, I knit purl the same peg. So if I purl this peg, I'll purl it again. But when I do my next row, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start with the knit and go through, and it really makes a really nice, pretty, I guess, a uniform stitch. And I've done these in several variety of stitches, and it all works. You know, it just depends on what your preference ends up being on how you want it to look. And I've mixed stitches. Like I've done one that the background was a diagonal wave and the body was knit and the mouth was purl, and yeah. It all works. The thing I like about the seed stitch and why I'm doing it for my border is it doesn't curl. Alright, pull that back. Now if you ever lose a stitch, you know, just usually it's still hanging there, you can put it back on the peg. Don't panic, just kind of look it over and see what you got there and find it. It's usually sticking out there pretty good, you can see it. So I can zoom in a little there for y'all. Alright, give me a minute and I'll get back in the screen there. Alright. This tail here, take it and put it over a yarn there. Then kind of remember that I went over, so when I come back I want to go across it. So you go across it this way, and when you come back, it's when you move it and weave it through. That way you don't have a lot fewer tails to deal with at the end of your project. Alright. And this doesn't feel like it's going to be real bulky where I carried the yarn together. Wasn't real sure with this yarn how that was going to be. Alright. Color change. A color join. What you want to do is take it and cross your thread, your yarn. That way your project is held together. And that's where your tangle starts. So when I come back, hopefully that'll just untangle nicely for me for a while. I also gotta do something with this. Oh. I think I'm just gonna put that like that. Kind of keep working it throughout the project until it disappears. That was a little thick there, but again, I don't think it's going to be real noticeable. And I'll bring this back forward so I'll remember it. Gets back there, I'll forget it, and I'll have a tail to weave in, which is no biggie, but the less you have at the end of the project is always nice. And then so there was 2 strands of yarn together, and we'll just knit them all over. That's where you had your tail. Alright. Same deal here. Take and cross the yarn. I haven't really noticed. Yeah, that's the way it is. Probably the way to go. I bet that'll make a bigger, more noticeable there. So, take and bring your picking up color across. Alright, and that is how I do them. So I hope that this was informative, and I will pick this back up when I start getting more colors and more bobbins to juggle and show you guys how it is progressing. Alright, thank you.